I genuinely wish I knew these tips and tricks earlier. It would have made my life a whole lot easier and saved me a ton of time doing my makeup. In today's video, I'm going over my top 12 unbelievable makeup hacks that I genuinely cannot live without. These hacks are going to help you out whether you are a beginner or a pro. If you really want your makeup to look perfected and flawless, keep on watching. But before we get into it, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All right, let's get into these makeup hacks. So hack number one is a foundation hack. If you struggle with your foundation looking cakey or applying kind of patchy, this will help you. I'm gonna use the Huda Beauty Easy Blur foundation. I actually really like this one. And I see some people squeezing it out from the tube onto the brush. Do not do that. Please don't do that. Your foundation is gonna look patchy. Trust me on that one, just don't. Instead, put it on the back of your hand first. Don't take too much. I'm using my Hourglass foundation brush and I'm just going to begin to coat my brush with that foundation. And I don't use the whole drop of foundation right off the bat. I just take a thin amount and I kind of just swirl the brush around in that product until it becomes evenly coated. When you look at your brush and you don't see any patches, that's when you know you're good to go. And then once that foundation is applied evenly to the brush, you're just gonna want to stamp it into the skin in patting motions. You're not gonna want to drag the foundation around because that can cause streakiness. Essentially, just stamp the foundation evenly all over your face, repeating as necessary, using as much product as you need. This is a really great technique as well to build up your foundation to a desired coverage instead of over applying. And there you have it, super even application, no patchiness, no cakiness. If you struggle with overdoing your blush or your contour, or you find that it looks muddy or patchy, this is another really good tip for you to have a very even, flawless application. It's pretty similar to the last one actually, except the application is slightly different. For contour, I'm going to be using my Westman Atelier Face Trace Contour Stick. I'm using the shade Biscuit. This is a really creamy contour stick, but for beginners, I actually don't recommend that you go straight in with your cream products like contour or blush. The reason for that is it can be hard to blend out where you initially applied that product, and you want a very airbrush. You can't really tell where the product begins or ends. This technique really helps with that, but it also helps you not to over apply product. When I see people going in straight on the face, more times than not, they're applying way too much product. So again, similar to the last hack, you're just gonna want to apply the cream product on the back of your hand. Doing it this way is actually going to heat up the product on your hand, making it way more buttery and just easier to blend out. I'm going in with my Refi dual-ended brush and I'm just going to pick some of that product up. And again, you're gonna wanna check that your brush is evenly coated in that product to prevent any patchiness. For creams, I like to directly stamp that product exactly where I want it first. And a tip I always give is apply less than you think. You can always apply more later. And then when I have that rough placement down, I like to take a fluffy duo fiber brush. This one just so happens to have 2-in-1, so it's super handy for any cream products. But I just tap the brush right on top like this, and as you can see, it's just melting into my skin, and you really cannot tell where it begins, where it ends. It gives you like a very natural finish, which I'm a huge fan of. And again, I'm not dragging that brush, I'm really just tapping those edges until I get the desired soft effect that I want. See what I mean? There's not too much product. It gave me a very even application, but you still get that same sculpted effect that you want when you use a contour product. And you guys, this is so much easier to blend out than when you go straight in with a stick. Trust me, you're actually gonna save yourself time and effort by doing it this way. And here's the thing, this doesn't just work for contour, it works for any cream product, specifically stick cream products. This one, for example, this is the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Blush Stick in the shade Soft Peach. I'm not gonna lie, and you know it too, there are some stick products that you just dread applying to your face because they're just dry and they tug and they don't blend good, but you love the color or whatever, right? This is one of those products, beautiful color, kind of hard to blend, all right? So you guessed it, same thing, just applying it to the back of my hand. And then I'm just going to coat my brush with the product. And always check, take a look to make sure your brush is evenly coated. You don't want any part of that face of the brush to be not touched by product because that's how you get patchiness. And then again, Just tapping motions, really just stamping that onto the cheek. Look immediately, it's like blending itself. And this blush is honestly a little bit difficult to work with. But with this technique, so easy, looks so natural, so pretty. Oh, I love that peachy color. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can take a fluffy brush and just tap over those edges just to make it extra natural and airbrush looking. If you're a beginner at makeup and you haven't tried this tip, this will definitely change the way your makeup looks and applies completely. This hack is going to make your life so much easier. And just really quickly before we move on to the next hack, this tip and technique makes it so easy to build your products without it picking up and removing the makeup underneath. If I were to go in with that stick on top of what I've already done, it would just lift up my foundation, my blush. It would just be honestly a mess. But with this tip, you can just keep building up in very small layers. It is so forgiving. Hack number 3, everyone wants a slimmer, straighter nose, okay? So I always get people asking me about nose contour. For me, I'm not the biggest nose contour girl, but trust me, I know how to do a good nose contour. I really like using either an eyeshadow stick or a very tiny little contour stick like this one. This is a Victoria Beckham Contour Stylus Sculpt and Detail. It's really tiny like this, but you could honestly use any eyeshadow stick that's roughly the same size and shape. The thing about nose contour, to make your nose look skinnier, you do not want to be applying contour too far outside your nose. You want to keep it like right, almost a little bit skinnier than your natural nose bridge. Do you see that? I like to take this into my brow a little bit, just like so. The shape of this product makes it so much easier to do nose contour. I see people trying to do nose contour with like these huge contour sticks, and I just don't recommend that. If you don't have a product that's this size, use a larger contour stick, but put it on a small brush and then apply it on your nose. I like to do along the bridge, but I also like to do a little bit on the bottom of my nose, like that. I will link this contour pen down below because I know they can be a little bit hard to find. But once I have the general shape that I like, I'm going to take a small fluffy brush and just begin again to tap in those lines. I'm not doing a bunch of dragging motions. I'm really just tapping this into the skin. And at this stage, you do not need this to be perfect, okay? The next step is really crucial. If you're gonna drag the product anywhere, drag it outwards instead of inwards because you don't want product on the bridge of your nose. You want to keep that part really clean so it gives the illusion of it being lifted. And if you want things to be a little bit softer, you can always go in with your finger and just tap over that product. That'll kind of soften that up a little bit. If you did blend it a little too much on the bridge of your nose, don't worry. You can just take a little bit of whatever concealer you prefer. And I like to pick this up on a brush, just a tiny amount, and then drag that along your nose bridge just to bring highlight back to that area. And then again, same thing, picking up concealer on the back of your hand with a brush. You're gonna wanna just take that down the sides of your nose, just like this. And you see that's gonna really sharpen up that line and really give your nose like a very straight and skinny look. Trust me when I say here, less is always more when it comes to nose contour. You can always add more later, but it's way more hard to correct over applied nose contour. It just turns into a mess. So trust me, you want to just build up in very thin layers and just be very sparing with your application. So now that we've nailed a nose contour, I'm going to tackle another very common makeup problem in hack number 4. This is my tried and true concealer technique, and I never get creasing when I do this technique specifically, and I don't see a lot of people applying concealer this way. Especially if you're a beginner or you do have fine lines under your eyes, you don't want to go straight in with concealer because it's just going to be too much product. What you're going to want to do is take the concealer on the back of your hand, just like that. By the way, I'm using the Armani Luminous Silk Concealer, my favorite concealer ever. And I'm gonna use a more fluffy concealer brush. This is the concealer brush by Tennille Jai. And yes, you guessed it, you're gonna want to evenly coat that brush in concealer. As you can see, I haven't used all that concealer. I'm just going in with a little bit at first. And I'm gonna begin to apply that on my under eye area. And you don't want to apply this too close to your lower lash line. You really want to avoid going all the way up to your bottom lashes because that's not going to look natural, and that's where most people's fine lines are. So you're going to avoid that area. I'm really focusing on where I get the darkest dark circles, which is right here. And as you can see, that's already done a lot for me with hardly any product. You use way less product with this technique. You can build up, do a second pass if you want to add a little bit more. But you can see I've left a little bit of a space between my bottom lash line and where that concealer begins. That is very, very intentional. What creasing is the buildup of excess product in your fine lines. This technique really cuts the amount of product you use in half. If you want more coverage, you can use a more full coverage concealer. This one is more of a medium coverage, but this technique works with any coverage of concealer. Okay, so now our cream products are applied. We're looking very airbrushed, very blended out, no harsh lines, no cakiness. Now I'm going to show you hack number 5, which is this little technique I like to call setting spray sandwiching. This is a hack for those of you who want your makeup to last longer. I feel like this is the ultimate hack for long wearing makeup, and again, I don't see that many people talking about this. I'm going to show you why I call this setting spray sandwiching, okay? I'm going to start off with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray, and I love this setting spray. This is one of my favorite setting sprays. I've gone through bottles and bottles of this. This is more of like a melt your makeup together, but make it last longer sort of setting spray. It's like more on the light side. It's a great setting spray for everyone, honestly. So I just start with a really good layer of that all over my face and wait for that to completely dry. And just a heads up, for me personally, I like to go in with setting spray before I go in with powders. If I do notice my makeup's looking a little bit cakey after I add powder, then I can go in with a little bit more setting spray, but with the rest of these hacks, I don't think you're gonna need to do that, and I think it's more efficient this way. Setting spray number 2 to complete the little sandwich. Now I'm going in with the One Size On Till Dawn Mattifying Waterproof Setting Spray. This is for my heavy duty girls. The red L'Oreal setting spray from the drugstore is kind of a dupe for this, to be honest. I'm gonna link it down below. But this setting spray is so good. This is mattifying, this is waterproofing. This will make your makeup last all day, all night, go swimming, I don't care. Your makeup's gonna be locked in, especially when paired with the Charlotte Tilbury one. Oof. You have to make sure you shake this one really well, but then I go right in with a good layer of this setting spray. I will say this one feels a little bit more intense. It kind of feels like you're spraying hairspray on your face, but for the girls who need their makeup to last 12 plus hours, this is it. The price we pay for beauty, honestly, it's really not that bad. It's fine. It smells good. The sprayer isn't too heavy. It just kind of like feels intense. Let's move on to hack number 6. Okay, picture this. You spend all this time perfecting your makeup. It looks so good, so even, and you go in with powder and you make everything look patchy and cakey and just dry. We don't want that anymore. This hack is gonna prevent that from happening. I'm gonna go in with the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Soft Blur Setting Powder. This one is in the shade Fair Pink. And I personally like a loose setting powder, but technically you can use the same technique with a pressed powder, but I just think it works better with a loose powder. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that powder just into my cap here, and I'm gonna take a powder puff, and I'm going to begin to coat my powder puff in that powder. See, the problem is a lot of you go in and set your face when your powder puff looks like this, okay? Don't do that, stop it. You're gonna wanna take the puff and really pat it into the back of your hand. Do you see all that powder coming off? That would have been excess powder that makes your face look dry, tight, and cakey, okay? I'm not sure if you're noticing a theme here, but you're gonna check to see that your powder puff is evenly coated in powder, and in this case it is. And before you set your under eyes, you're just gonna wanna double check that there are no little lines underneath your eyes that have formed. So just pat those out before. That is a huge, huge tip, because otherwise you are going to be setting those creases in place, and no one wants that. And then you're gonna wanna take your puff and just press that underneath the eyes, pressing it, not dragging it, being very gentle to just make sure that powder is fully coating the under eye area nice and evenly. And you can see there's not a ton of excess powder floating around everywhere. We have just what we need. And my under eye area does not look dry. It does not look cakey. There isn't even powder that I need to clean up because it just is the perfect amount of powder. Same thing on the other eye. I'm really just taking my time to press that powder into the puff instead of having it sit on top of the puff because that's what causes the patchiness. This technique also works all over the face, not just under the eyes. You can do your entire face this way and it's not gonna look patchy or dry or like you over applied your powder. Now I'm going to demonstrate a super quick eyeshadow look. A lot of you struggle with blending your eyeshadow. A lot of you find it really challenging to get a very even blend. So I'm going to show you a hack that makes eyeshadow really easy and honestly foolproof. The first thing you're going to need is a Revela 01 brush. I talk about this brush all the time on my channel. This is my one and done brush. If I could only have one, it would be this one. I've linked it in the description. This is a perfect blender, application, anything brush. It's so good. Once you have the eyeshadow brush that you're going to be using, you're going to want to pick up your eyeshadow. This is the Makeup by Mario Master Matte Neutrals palette. And I'm actually going to mix these two colors together to create my perfect crease shade. And what you don't want to do is go directly onto the eye when your brush is looking like this directly after you picked up the powder, okay? Big no-no. You're going to want to take that brush and just swirl it on the meaty part of your hand. You're going to see a ton of excess eyeshadow just coming right off of your brush. That would have made your eyeshadow look really patchy. Once you fluffed off the excess, you can go right ahead into the lid and begin to apply that shadow. I'm just going to apply this into my crease. And you see how natural and effortless that looks. You really can't tell where the shadow begins or ends. But if you want to add some intensity, same thing, pick up more color on your brush. Every time you pick up shadow, you want to do the same thing, just swirl it around on your hand to make sure there's not too much powder on there. And then continue to build that up in small layers. And if you find that you're still struggling for some reason, you're gonna wanna take a fluffy, clean blending brush. This is a Revela 15, so it's a little bit fluffier and less precise. And you're just gonna wanna run that all along that eyeshadow you just did. This is gonna really diffuse those edges. I'm just going back in with my Revela 01 brush and just sweeping that along my lower lash line. So, we've gotten to the point of the video where we're gonna talk about the dreaded winged eyeliner. Everyone struggles with winged liner, it's okay. I'm gonna show you how to make this process a whole lot easier for yourself. This technique is dummy proof, okay? Hang with me. So for beginners, I recommend starting with either just plain old eyeshadow eyeliner, or if you want to try kohl liner, this is a really good option as well. That's what I'm going to use today. I'm going in with the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Dimensional Dark Brown. I think brown over black is prettier, but it's also easier to work with and way more forgiving. I don't recommend liquid eyeliner for beginners, but do whatever you'd like. So what you're going to want to do is take that liner, make sure it's nice and sharp, start applying that on the outer corner only, and begin to drag it straight out. Stay calm here, people. Do not panic, okay? This does not need to be perfect. It can be a little messy, no worries. My biggest recommendation would be just to not over apply. So once you have a shape that you're happy with, again, you can see it's kind of messy, but since I sharpened the pencil so much, it really helped me to be a little bit more precise. If your pencil's not sharp, you're not gonna make things easier on yourself. I'm gonna take a small angled brush and I'm just gonna begin to manipulate that kohl liner. And these are really forgiving. These are really blendable. So you don't need to work too fast with these. Some waterproof liners dry down really quickly, but my recommendation would be just do one eye at a time and you should be fine. And from there, you can kind of tell what the final look is going to be like. If you want to add more, you can go ahead and add more, build on top of it. Same rule applies, just keep building up instead of applying too much right off the bat. And that is what we are left with. If you want a video that's more in depth on beginner eyeshadow, I have an entire video of that on my channel. I'll link it in the description as well as on the screen. Another little quick tip, when you're doing your liner, don't like crush your eye closed like this. As you can see, there's not a smooth area to apply your liner. Instead, look straight ahead and then blend your liner that way. It's gonna be way easier. So some of you might be asking, well, what if I make a mistake when I'm doing my liner? What do I do then? That is what hack number 8 is for. This is kind of a 4-in-1 hack. These are 4 ways that you can really sharpen up your liner super easy, super quickly. The first one is really simple. If you have Bioderma on hand or even your setting spray, you can just wet your brush And then with that damp brush, you can just run it under the areas that you want to sharpen up. This is gonna lift up the product underneath and give you a sharper looking wing really quickly, really easily. I recommend a small angled brush or a small smudger brush like this one. If you don't have setting spray, you can also use a powder eyeshadow. I like to use either like a powder foundation that's the same color as my skin, or even something a little bit lighter. So I use this one all the time for this trick. I pick up a little bit of a lighter powder and then I will just tap that underneath my liner to give that area a bit of a brightened look, like so. See how it just really gives that sharp effect? This looks really good with glam makeup. It also makes the liner look a bit more contrasty with the lighter powder underneath it. You can also do the same thing with concealer and a brush, but I feel like everyone's kind of seen that already. What I don't hear a lot of people talking about is how you can use a cream colored kohl to clean up your eyeliner. This is the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Boundless Bisque. And again, just make sure you have a sharp pencil for this, but this is a cream colored liner. And you can just take that right underneath your winged liner. And you don't have to blend it out if you don't want to, but I like to just take an angled brush and just kind of soften those edges just a little bit. Just make sure you use a kohl liner that is easy to blend. Probably avoid a waterproof one for this step. A lot of you struggle with your brows fading off your face throughout the day, but I have a really simple, easy trick for you. This is hack number 10, and it might seem kind of strange, but I honestly don't know why more people don't do this. It just makes sense to me. I'm gonna take my Makeup by Mario powder again, and this time I'm just gonna take a small dense brush and I'm gonna pick some of that powder up. As always, removing the excess, and I'm just gonna go right ahead and stamp on top of my brow pencil, making sure not to drag. You really just wanna use stamping motions to keep the product underneath in place. And this powder is a little bit tinted, which I honestly don't mind. I feel like it makes my brows look a little bit less harsh, but you can use a translucent, no color powder, whatever you would like. But whenever I do this with my brows, they do not move all day, all night. Since I started doing this, I honestly haven't gone a day doing my brows without doing this little hack, just because it makes such a huge difference. And then once I powder, I'll go in with a brow gel. This is the L'Oreal Brow Illumination Gel. I like to do this afterwards so my brows don't look crusty. But yeah, there's nothing cute about your brows wearing off throughout the day, and this simple little hack truly just prevents that from happening. So many women want their lips to appear more full, and we always reach for lip liner for this effect, but have you ever tried contouring your lips? For hack number 11, I'm gonna show you my go-to trick to make my lips look naturally more full. I'm using that exact same Victoria Beckham contour stick that I used earlier, and I am just gonna go overline my lips with this stick. This does not need to be perfect. Trust the process. I try to avoid the outermost corners of my lips because I don't really want like an elongated lip look. I want my lips to look more full. So I focus this contour more right here and right in the center of my lower lip. And then you're gonna wanna take a smudger brush. This is from Tennille Jai. And you're gonna just want to start blending those edges really softly. Again, more so of a tapping motion instead of a dragging motion. You can use your finger too. And hang with me, this might look a little weird at first, but trust me, once we add liner, this is gonna look like natural shadows from how plump our lips are. I'm gonna go in with the Makeup Forever Wherever Walnut Liner, and I'm gonna overline my lips in those exact same areas, mainly on the Cupid's bow and the center of my lower lip. And those two together create the most natural looking overlined lips. My lips look so much more full than they naturally are. For hack number 12, I already know a lot of you struggle with your lips fading off as well. This is a huge one when you're eating, drinking. But when you overline your lips like me, it can look kind of weird when your lip liner is fading off every 2 seconds. So I have a hack that helps prevent that. We're gonna dip back into our trusty Makeup by Mario powder, just on a dense brush. And a lot of people don't think to do this, but you can actually powder your lip liner, just watch. I'm just lightly tapping that on top of my lip liner. This is gonna lock in those cream products and stop them from sliding around. This really does extend the wear of my lip liner, especially if I want to wear a lip liner that isn't usually long wearing. I'll just do this technique and I'll find it just lasts so much longer. And to top it all off, I'm going in with my Charis Cosmetics Water Gloss. This smooths out all the fine lines in my lips and really just brings my lips to the next level. They look so juicy and glassy. This is everything I could ever want in a gloss. And that is it for these 12 unbelievable makeup hacks that I wish I knew earlier. Which hack was your favorite? Did you learn something new? Leave it in the comments down below. I read every single comment and respond to you all. I'm so snoopy and I would love to know what you think. If you haven't already, please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.